The morning sun barely reached through the thick clouds above the medical facility. Dr. Jae-won Kim stood at the main entrance watching the sky. His white coat moved slightly in the cold wind. In his right hand, he held a medical scanner. The device shook a little, but not from the cold. Today was different from any other day in his 20 years as a doctor. Today he would treat the most dangerous patient in the history of the galaxy. "The transport is coming down now," said Ji-woo Park. She was the security chief of the facility. Her black uniform looked perfect, as always. But Jae-won noticed her, hand resting on her weapon. Her fingers were tight around it. "Are you ready for this, Doctor?" Ji-woo asked. Her voice was steady, but her eyes showed worry. Jae-won took a deep breath. "I became a doctor to help people. All people. This thing killed half the galaxy," Ji-woo reminded him. 47 trillion lives. Gone. Just like that." "I know the numbers," Jae-won said quietly. "But my oath doesn't have exceptions." The clouds above them began to glow. A massive ship pushed through, its hull black like space itself. The transport ship was surrounded by dozens of smaller guard ships, their weapons all pointed at the transport. As the ship landed, the ground shook. Steam rose from its engines. The landing platform groaned under its weight. Soldiers ran into position. Each one carried weapons that could destroy a small moon. They formed a circle around the landing area. More soldiers watched from the towers above. The transport's doors opened with a hiss. Cold air rushed out, so cold that ice formed on the ground. Inside the ship, something moved. Something that hurt to look at. "Medical team, stand ready," Jae-won said into his communicator. Behind him, his team of 50 doctors and nurses prepared their equipment. Each one had volunteered for this mission. Each one knew the risks. A containment pod floated out of the ship. It was made of pure energy fields, glowing blue and white. Inside the pod was their patient. Jae-won stepped closer to get a better look. The being inside didn't have a fixed shape. One moment it looked human. The next moment it was something else entirely. Its body flickered between different forms, leaving strange shadows in the air. Subject designation: Void Walker, said the facility's computer voice. Threat level: Omega. Confirmed casualties: 47.3 trillion sentient beings. Approach with extreme caution. The containment pod moved toward the facility's main entrance. Soldiers walked beside it, their weapons never lowering. Some of them were shaking. Jae-won didn't blame them. "Dr. Kim," said a voice behind him. He turned to see Dr. Sun-hee Lee, the head of alien biology. She was young, maybe 30, but brilliant. "The preliminary scans show something strange." "Strange how?" Jae-won asked. "The entity appears to be in pain," Sun-hee said. "Constant, severe pain. Its energy readings spike every few seconds like it's having seizures." Jae-won looked back at the pod. The Voidwalker inside was curled up, its form shaking. Even through the containment field he could sense its agony. "Get the medical bay ready," he ordered. "Maximum isolation protocols." As they moved inside the facility, protesters gathered outside the gates, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They held signs with pictures of loved ones, people who had been erased in the disaster. "Let it die," they shouted. "Justice for the erased. Kill the monster." Jae-won tried not to listen. He had lost people too. His sister, his nephew, 3 of his oldest friends. All gone when the Voidwalker had its incident. But he was a doctor. Personal feelings had no place in medicine. The medical bay was the most advanced in the galaxy. The walls were lined with quantum stabilizers. The air itself was filtered through dimensional screens. Everything was designed to contain beings that shouldn't exist. "Position the pod in Chamber 1, Jae-won instructed. The containment pod floated into place. Through the viewing window, he could see the Voidwalker more clearly now. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Its skin seemed to be made of starlight. Its eyes held the darkness between galaxies. And it was definitely in pain. "Dr. Kim," said another voice. Dr. Hyun-woo Choi entered the observation room. He used to be a physicist before becoming a doctor. His expertise in quantum medicine made him essential for this case. "I've analyzed the energy patterns. This being exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. How is that possible? Jae-won asked. It shouldn't be, Hyunwoo replied. Its very existence is a paradox. That might be what's causing the pain. Jae-won activated the intercom. This is Dr. Kim. I'm going to examine you now. Can you understand me? The Void Walker's form shifted. Suddenly Jae-won heard a voice in his mind, not through his ears but directly in his thoughts. Pain, always pain. Make it stop. The voice was like 1,000 people speaking at once. Men, women, children, all crying out together. We'll help you, Jae-won said. But I need to come closer. Will you let me? You are not afraid? I'm terrified, Jae-won admitted. But I'm also a doctor. Let me help. The security team protested immediately. Sir, you can't go in there, Jiwoo said. If it attacks, we might not be able to save you. If it wanted to attack, we'd already be dead, Jae-won pointed out. Lower the containment field. Just the medical port. Doctor, this is madness, said Administrator Hyejin Kang, who had just arrived. She ran the entire facility. The Galactic Council will have my head if something goes wrong. The Council sent it here for treatment, Jae-won reminded her. Let me treat it. After a long pause, Hyejin nodded. Lower the field. Medical port only. All weapons stay locked on target. A small opening appeared in the containment field. Jae-won put on his protective suit and approached slowly. The closer he got, the more he could feel the being's agony. It was like standing next to a star that was constantly exploding and reforming. My name is Jae-won, he said softly. I'm here to help. May I scan you? The Void Walker's form solidified slightly. It looked almost human now. A figure made of light and shadow. You smell of grief, it said in his mind. You lost someone. In the erasure. Many people, Jae-won confirmed. But right now, you're my patient. Nothing else matters. He raised his scanner. The readings were unlike anything he'd ever seen. The being's cellular structure existed in multiple states at once, living and dead. Here and not here. No wonder it was in pain. How long have you been like this? Jae-won asked. Always, the Void Walker replied. Since the moment of my creation, I am a mistake. A cosmic error. The erasure. I couldn't control. The pain became too much. Reality broke around me. Jae-won's heart sank. This wasn't a monster. It was a victim of its own existence. We're going to find a way to help you, he promised. My team is the best in the galaxy. We'll figure this out, and if you can't, Jae-won met the being's shifting gaze. We will. I give you my word as a doctor. We'll find a way to stop your pain. Behind him, his team watched in amazement. The most feared being in the galaxy was just another patient, and their doctor was treating it like any other sick person who needed help. Outside, the protesters grew louder. Inside, Jae-won began the most important case of his career. He didn't know if he could save the Void Walker. He didn't know if he should. But he knew, one thing for certain, he had taken an oath, and that oath didn't care about the crimes of the patient. It only cared about healing. As he worked, he whispered the ancient words that every human doctor knew by heart. First, do no harm. The galaxy watched. The universe held its breath. And in a small medical bay, a human doctor began to treat the being that had destroyed half of all life. History was about to change. All because one man remembered his promise to heal. The isolation chamber was silent except for the hum of machines. Dr. Jae-won Kim stood with his team, studying the impossible readings on their screens. The Void Walker floated in the center of the room, its form shifting like smoke in water. Look at these neural patterns, said Dr. Sun-hee Lee. She pointed at her screen with a shaking finger. It's thinking in 5 dimensions at once. No wonder it's in pain. Dr. Hyunwoo Choi adjusted his scanner. The quantum signature keeps changing. 1 second it's here, the next it's spread across 10 light-years of space. Its body is trying to exist everywhere and nowhere. Jae-won moved closer to the containment field. The Void Walker noticed him and turned. Today it looked more solid, more human-like, but its edges still blurred into nothingness. "Can you tell me about the pain?" Jae-won asked gently. The being's voice echoed in their minds. "Imagine being torn, apart every second. Imagine dying 1,000 times but never being allowed to stop. That is my existence." Sun-hee gasped. Her scanner had picked up something new. "Dr. Kim, look at this. Its cells aren't just unstable. They're at war with each other." On the screen they could see it clearly. Parts of the Void Walker's body were trying to exist in this universe. Other parts were trying to escape to somewhere else. The conflict was tearing it apart from the inside. "No organism should survive this," Hyunwoo said. "The fact that it's still alive is a miracle," Jae-won finished. "Or a curse." Outside the facility, the crowds had grown larger. Their chants penetrated even the soundproof walls. Jae-won tried to focus on his work, but the anger in their voices was hard to ignore. A new person entered the observation room. Dr. Young-soo Bang, Jae-won's old teacher. His face was hard with grief. "I came to see the monster that killed my family," Young-soo said. "Teacher," Jae-won began. "Don't," Young-soo cut him off. "My daughter was on Kepler Station. My grandchildren were visiting her, all gone. Because of that thing." Jae-won felt the weight of his teacher's pain, but he stood firm. "It's a patient, teacher. It needs our help." "It needs to die," Young-soo replied coldly. The Void Walker suddenly screamed, not with its voice, but with its mind. Everyone in the room grabbed their heads as psychic pain flooded through them. The walls flickered. Reality itself seemed to bend. When the attack passed, they found the Void Walker curled into a ball, smaller than before. "I'm sorry," it whispered. "I can't control it. When the pain gets too bad, I leak." Jae-won checked his team. Everyone was shaken, but unharmed. He turned back to the patient. "That's what happened before, wasn't it? During the erasure?" The Void Walker's form rippled. "I was traveling through your galaxy. The pain had been growing for cycles. Then something changed. A cosmic storm, perhaps. Or maybe I just reached my limit. The pain exploded outward. When I could think again, half your galaxy was gone." "You didn't mean to do it," Jae-won said. "Does that matter to the dead?" the being asked. Young-soo stepped forward. "No, it doesn't. My daughter is still gone. Her children are still erased." "Teacher, please," Jae-won said. "Let us work." Sun-hee interrupted them. "I found something, the being's original structure. Before the instability started." She displayed a complex diagram. It showed a beautiful pattern, like a flower made of light. "You were stable once," she said to the Void Walker. "What changed?" The being's form shimmered. Memories flowed from it, visible to all. They saw a race of explorers, beings of pure energy who traveled between dimensions. They saw an experiment gone wrong, a young Void Walker touching something it shouldn't have. A cascade of quantum failures. "I was curious," it said sadly. "I wanted to see what lay beyond the final barrier. But some doors should stay closed. I brought something back with me. A paradox. A question that reality couldn't answer." Hyunwoo studied his readings. "The paradox is still there. It's like a computer virus, but for the laws of physics. Every time your body tries to stabilize, the paradox activates and scrambles everything." "Can we remove it?" Jae-won asked. "Not without killing the patient," Hyunwoo replied. "The paradox is part of its quantum signature now. They're inseparable." Administrator Heejin Kang burst into the room. Her face was pale. "Dr. Kim, we have a problem. The Galactic Council has been monitoring our work. They're not happy with the lack of progress." "We've only had the patient for 6 hours, Jae-won protested. "They don't care, they've voted. If we can't show significant improvement in the next 12 hours, they're sending a strike team to eliminate the threat." The room fell silent. Everyone looked at the Void Walker. It seemed to shrink under their gaze. I understand, it said. Perhaps it's better this way. End the pain. Protect the rest of your galaxy. No, Jae-won said firmly. We're not giving up. Sun-hee, show me those stability patterns again. Hyun-woo, can we create a quantum mirror? Something to reflect the paradox back on itself? His team jumped into action. But Young-soo grabbed his arm. Jae-won, think about what you're doing. This creature destroyed worlds, entire civilizations, children who will never grow up, parents who will never see their kids again. I know, Jae-won said. But look at it, teacher. Really look. Young-soo turned to the containment field. For the first time, he saw past his anger. He saw a being in absolute agony. A creature that had never asked for its condition. A patient in desperate need. It's suffering, Young-soo said quietly. Every second of every day, Jae-won confirmed. And it can't die. The paradox won't let it. It just exists in constant pain, dangerous to everything around it. Young-soo's shoulders sagged. What do you need from me? Your expertise in neural binding. If we can't remove the paradox, maybe we can contain it. Build a wall around it. The old doctor nodded slowly. I'll help. Not for that thing, but because you asked. As the team worked, the Voidwalker watched them. Why do you care so much? It asked Jae-won. Your species lost more than any other. You should hate me most of all. Jae-won looked up from his calculations. Hate doesn't heal. It only creates more pain, and there's enough of that already. Hours passed. The team worked without rest. Outside, military ships began to gather. The deadline approached. Sun-hee made a breakthrough first. I can stabilize individual cells, not permanently, but for a few minutes at a time. Hyun-woo added his discovery. The paradox has a rhythm. It activates in predictable cycles. If we time our treatment right, Young-soo contributed too. The neural pathways can be reinforced. We can teach the brain to anticipate the pain, prepare for it. Piece by piece, a treatment plan formed. It wasn't a cure, but it might be enough to prove that healing was possible. Will it work? Hyejin asked. Only one way to find out, Jae-won replied. He turned to the Voidwalker. This will be dangerous. We're going to try to cage the paradox, wrap it in layers of quantum fields. The process might increase your pain temporarily. I trust you, the Voidwalker said simply. You're the first. Beings who have looked at me and seen something other than a monster. As they prepared for the procedure, Ji-woo entered with her security team. Doctor, the strike ships are in position. They're just waiting for the order. Jae-won looked at his patient, then at his team. They had come so far in just a few hours. They had looked past their fear and grief to find compassion. Then we'd better work fast, he said. Everyone to your stations. Let's show the galaxy what healing really means. The treatment began. The Voidwalker's screams echoed through dimensions. But for the first time, there was hope in its voice too. Hope that the pain might finally end. And in that moment, the team understood. They weren't just trying to save one being. They were trying to save the very idea that redemption was possible, that even the greatest mistakes could be forgiven, that healing could triumph over hate. The medical bay hummed with energy as Dr. Jae-won Kim prepared for the most difficult procedure of his life. Around him, his team moved with careful precision. Every second counted now. Quantum stabilizers online, reported Dr. Hyun-woo Choi. His hands flew over the controls. Field strength at maximum. Neural dampeners ready, added Dr. Sun-hee Lee. She double-checked each setting. We can reduce the pain signals by 40%, maybe 50 if we're lucky. Dr. Young-soo Bang stood at the main console. His face showed the battle between his grief and his duty as a doctor. The containment matrix is stable. We can begin when you're ready. Jae-won looked at the Voidwalker. The being floated in the center of their carefully constructed field. Its form was more solid now, but still flickered between states of existence. Are you ready? Jae-won asked. I have waited eons for this moment, the Voidwalker replied. Its mental voice was tired but hopeful. Either the pain ends, or I end. Both are welcome. Outside the facility, the situation grew worse. Military ships filled the sky. Protesters pressed against the gates. Some threw stones. Others simply stood in silence, holding pictures of the erased. Inside her office, Administrator He-Jin Kang faced a wall of angry faces on her communication screen. The Galactic Council was not pleased. "You have 6 hours left," said the council chairman. His forearms were crossed in disapproval. "No extensions. No excuses." "Our doctors are making progress," He-Jin argued. "Progress isn't success," the chairman replied. "That thing is a weapon. It cannot be allowed to exist." The connection ended. Ye-Jin rubbed her tired eyes and returned to the medical bay. 6 hours, she announced. "That's all we have." Jae-won nodded without looking up. "Then we start now, everyone to positions." The team spread out around the containment field. Each person had a specific role. Sun-hee would monitor the biological systems. Hyun-woo would control the quantum fields. Young-soo would manage the neural networks. And Jae-won would coordinate everything. "Beginning Phase 1, Jae-won announced. "Quantum field compression in 3, 2, 1. The air itself seemed to thicken. The Voidwalker's form began to compress, its scattered particles pulling together. The being's scream pierced their minds. "Pain levels spiking," Sun-hee reported. "Neural activity off the charts." "Hold steady," Jae-won ordered. "We expected this." The Voidwalker writhed in the field. Reality bent around it. For a moment, the walls of the facility became transparent. They could see through to other dimensions, other possibilities. "Quantum barrier holding," Hyun-woo said through gritted teeth. "But barely." "Phase 2, Jae-won commanded. "Neural pathway, reinforcement." Young-soo activated his controls. Streams of energy flowed into the Voidwalker's consciousness. They weren't trying to change its mind, just give it stronger walls to contain the paradox. "It's working," Young-soo said with surprise. "The neural patterns are stabilizing." But something was wrong. The Voidwalker's form began to expand again. The paradox fought back against their treatment. "We're losing containment," Hyun-woo warned. "The paradox is adapting." "Increase power to the stabilizers," Jae-won ordered. "They're already at maximum." "Any more and we risk—" A wave of energy burst from the Voidwalker. Equipment sparked and failed. The lights flickered. For a moment, everyone in the room felt what the being felt. The endless, crushing pain of existing in too many states at once. When they recovered, half their equipment was dead. The Voidwalker had shrunk to almost human size, curled in a ball of agony. "I'm sorry," it whispered. "I tried to hold it in. I failed again." Young-soo looked at his ruined console. "We've lost the neural interface. Without it, we can't complete the treatment." "Then we rebuild it," Jae-won said. "With what?" Young-soo demanded. "That was unique equipment. It took months to build." Jae-won looked around the room. His team was exhausted. Their equipment was failing. Time was running out. But he saw something else too. He saw determination in their eyes. These people had volunteered to save the being that destroyed half the galaxy. They wouldn't give up now. "We improvise," he decided. "Sun-hee, can you reroute the biological scanners through the quantum field?" She thought for a moment. "Maybe. If we reverse the polarity and use them as transmitters instead of receivers." "Do it." "Hyun-woo, forget about containing the whole paradox. Can you create small pockets of stability? Islands of calm in the storm?" The physicist's eyes lit up. "Yes, like eye walls in a hurricane. It won't stop the paradox, but it might give the patient places to rest." "Teacher," Jae-won turned to Young-soo. "Without your equipment, can you still read neural patterns?" Young-soo looked at his hands. "I trained for 30 years before we had such fancy machines. Yes, I can do it manually, but I'll need to touch the patient directly." Everyone froze. Touching the Voidwalker meant certain death. The being's unstable quantum field would tear apart anyone who made contact. "No," Jae-won said. "It's too dangerous. You're asking everyone else to risk everything." Young-soo replied. "Why should I be different?" "Because you have the most to lose." Your anger, your grief, and they're justified. No one would blame you for walking away. Young-Soo looked at the Void Walker. Then he looked at his former student. You taught me something today, Jae-won. Hate doesn't heal. My daughter wouldn't want me to let another being suffer if I could help. Security Chief Ji-woo burst in. Doctor, we have a problem. Some of the protesters have broken through. They're in the building. How many? Jae-won asked. About 50. They're demanding we hand over the patient. Jae-won made a quick decision. Lock down this section. No one gets in or out until we're finished. Sir, if those people reach this room, they won't. You're the best security chief in the galaxy. I trust you. Ji-woo nodded and left. The sound of security doors sealing echoed through the facility. Back to work, Jae-won ordered. We're running. Out of time. They rebuilt their treatment system using whatever they could find. Medical scanners became quantum transmitters. Diagnostic tools became field generators. It was ugly, improvised, and probably wouldn't work. But it was all they had ready for Phase 3, Sun-hee announced. Biofield integration. Quantum pocket stable, Hyun-woo added. Not pretty, but functional. Young-Soo stepped toward the containment field. If this goes wrong, tell my wife I finally understood what you meant about healing. Tell her yourself, Jae-won said. When we're done here. Young-Soo smiled sadly. Then he reached into the field. The moment his hand touched the Void Walker, everything changed. The being's chaotic energy flowed into Young-Soo, and something flowed back. Not treatment exactly. Something deeper. Understanding. Compassion. The simple human touch that says, you're not alone. The Void Walker's form solidified. For the first time since its accident, it looked almost normal. The paradox still raged inside it, but now there were calm spaces too. Places where it could think, could rest, could hope. It's working, Sun-hee whispered. The patterns are stabilizing. But Young-Soo was paying the price. His hair turned white. His skin aged decades in seconds. The quantum energy was burning through his life force. Teacher, let go, Jae-won shouted. You've done enough. Not yet, Young-Soo gasped. Almost there. I can feel it, the breakthrough point. The Void Walker's eyes opened. They were no longer voids of darkness. They looked almost human. Thank you, it said aloud for the first time. Its voice was rough, but real. I remember now what it feels like to not be in pain. Then the alarm started. The 6 hours were up. The strike teams were moving in. Jae-won looked at his patient, his teacher, his team. They had done the impossible. They had given a moment of peace to a being that had known only agony. Now they just had to survive long enough to finish the job. Alarms screamed through the medical facility. Red lights flashed in every corridor. The strike team had arrived. Dr. Jae-won Kim stood in the center of the medical bay, his hand on Young-Soo's shoulder. His old teacher was still touching the Void Walker, aging rapidly from the quantum contact. But the treatment was working. Teacher, you have to let go now, Jae-won said urgently. Young-Soo shook his head weakly. Not yet. The neural pathways need more time to solidify. Just a few more minutes. Through the observation window, they could see Security Chief Ji-woo Park and her team. They had formed a line in the main corridor. Beyond them, shadows moved. The strike team was coming. Dr. Kim, Ji-woo's voice came through the intercom. I can hold them for maybe 10 minutes. After that... Understood, Jae-won replied. He turned to his team. How much longer do we need? Dr. Sun-hee Lee checked her readings. The biological systems are stabilizing. 15 minutes for full integration. We don't have 15 minutes, Dr. Hyun-woo Choi said. Maybe if we increase the quantum field strength. That could kill them both, Sun-hee protested. Jae-won looked at the Void Walker. The being's form was more stable than ever before. Its eyes were clear, focused. The constant pain that had defined its existence was finally manageable. What do you want us to do? Jae-won asked it directly. The Void Walker's voice was soft, but clear. I have lived with agony for so long I had forgotten there was another way. Your teacher, He's giving his life for mine. Why? Young-Soo answered, his voice barely a whisper. Because that's what humans do. We heal, we forgive, we hope. The sound of weapons fire echoed from the corridor. The strike team had engaged Jiwoo's security forces. Administrator Hee-jin Kang ran into the medical bay. The Galactic Council is demanding immediate termination. They say the risk is too great. The risk of what? Jae-won demanded. Look at the patient, the treatment is working. They don't care. They see a weapon that could destroy the rest of the galaxy. Nothing more. The Void Walker spoke again. They are right to fear me. Even with your treatment, I am dangerous. The paradox still exists within me, it always will. But you can control it now, Sun-hee argued. The stable zones we created are temporary, the Void Walker interrupted. Your teacher's sacrifice has given me clarity, but not a cure. There is no cure for what I am. Young-Soo's legs gave out. Jae-won caught him and gently pulled him away from the containment field. The old doctor's hair was completely white now, his face lined with age that hadn't been there an hour ago. Did we succeed? Young-Soo whispered. You gave it peace, Jae-won said. For the first time in eons, it's not in constant pain. Good. Young-Soo smiled weakly. That's all any doctor can hope for. To ease suffering. The fighting in the corridor grew closer. Through the security cameras, they could see Jiwoo's team falling back. The strike team moved with military precision, their weapons designed specifically to kill beings like the Void Walker. Hee-jin grabbed Jae-won's arm. Doctor, you need to make a choice. Stand aside and let them finish this, or what? Or stand with your patient and likely die with it. Jae-won looked around at his team. Sun-hee nodded firmly. Hyun-woo stood straighter. Even Young-Soo, weak as he was, struggled to his feet. We're doctors, Jae-won said simply. We don't abandon our patients. The doors to the medical bay exploded inward. The strike team entered, weapons raised. Their leader, a tall being with scales that shifted color, stepped forward. By order of the Galactic Council, terminate the entity known as the Void Walker. Jae-won stepped in front of the containment field. This is a medical facility. The patient is under our care. Stand aside, doctor. This is not a request. No. Behind Jae-won, his entire team formed a line. Doctors and nurses, scientists and technicians. None of them were fighters, but all of them stood firm. You would die for this monster? The strike team leader asked. We would die for our principles, Jae-won replied. For the idea that healing is always possible. That redemption exists, that every life has value. The Void Walker's voice filled the room. Stop. Everyone turned. The being had risen to its full height within the containment field. Its form was stable, beautiful in a strange way. Stars seemed to dance within its skin. No more death because of me, it said. I have caused enough suffering. Then you'll submit to termination? The strike team leader asked. I will submit to justice. But first, let me speak. The leader hesitated, then nodded. The Void Walker looked at Jae-won and his team. You have shown me something I thought impossible. Forgiveness. Compassion. You looked at the destroyer of worlds and saw a patient in pain. It turned to the strike team. I cannot undo what I did. The erased are gone forever. But these humans have given me control. For the first time, I can choose. Choose what? Hee-jin asked to use my power differently. The paradox that causes my pain, it's not just destructive, it's creative too. What was erased, perhaps it can be restored. The room fell silent. Everyone stared at the being. That's impossible, the strike team leader said. The dead cannot return. Not the dead, the Void Walker agreed. But the patterns they left behind, the quantum echoes, they still exist, scattered across dimensions. I can feel them now that the pain isn't drowning everything else. Young-Soo stepped forward, leaning heavily on Sun-hee. My daughter, my grandchildren. I cannot bring back the same people, but I can recreate what was lost. New life from old patterns. It would take all my strength, and I would need help. What kind of help? Jae-won asked. The same kind you've given me. Medical support. Quantum stabilization. The compassion to believe that redemption is possible. The strike team. Leader lowered his weapon slightly. This is a trick, a delay tactic. No, Young-soo said firmly. I touched its mind. I felt its truth. It's not lying. Jae-won looked at the being that had destroyed half the galaxy. He saw pain, yes, but also hope. Determination. A desperate need to make things right. If we help you, he said slowly, what happens to you? The Void Walker's form flickered. To restore so much, I would use everything I have. The paradox would consume me. But perhaps that's fitting. One life to restore trillions. That's not healing, Jae-won protested. That's just another form of death. No, Doctor. It's sacrifice. Something your species understands well. The alarms had stopped. The entire facility waited in silence. The choice hung in the air like a held breath. Finally, the strike team leader spoke. I need to contact the council. Tell them this, the Void Walker said. The humans taught me that justice isn't just about punishment. It's about restoration. Let me restore what I destroyed. Let my last act be creation, not destruction. As messages flew between the facility and the Galactic Council, Jae-won stood with his patient. He had started this day treating a monster. He would end it beside a being seeking redemption. Whatever happens, he said quietly, you're not alone. We'll stand with you. The Void Walker's eyes shimmered with something that might have been tears. Thank you, Doctor, for seeing me as more than my worst mistake. The strike team leader received his orders. He holstered his weapon. The council has decided. You have one chance. Fail, and we complete our mission. Jae-won nodded. He turned to his team. Prepare for the most important procedure in galactic history. We're going to help our patient save the universe. The medical bay had been transformed into something beyond a treatment room. Dr. Jae-won Kim stood at the center of a web of quantum machines, all focused on the Void Walker. The being floated above them, its form now stable and shining with inner light. Quantum field generators at full power, Dr. Hyun-woo Choi announced. His hands moved over controls that hummed with energy. Biological patterns locked and ready, Dr. Sun-hee Lee added. Her screens showed millions of stored patterns, the quantum echoes of the erased. Dr. Young-soo Bang sat in a special chair, still weak from his sacrifice. But his eyes were bright with hope. Neural network stabilized. We can begin when ready. The strike team stood guard around the room. Their leader watched everything with careful eyes. The Galactic Council monitored through screens. The entire galaxy held its breath. Jae-won approached the Void Walker. Are you certain about this? Once we start, there's no stopping. The being's voice was calm. I have lived with the weight of destruction for too long. Let my end be a beginning for others. Outside, the protesters had gone silent. News of what was happening had spread. People who had come in anger now waited in hope. Could their loved ones really return? Initialize the restoration protocol, Jae-won ordered. The Void Walker rose higher. Its body began to glow brighter. The paradox that had caused so much pain now pulsed with creative energy. I can see them, the being whispered. All the patterns, all the lives. They're still here, waiting. Streams of light flowed from the Void Walker. Each stream split into thousands of smaller lights. The lights spread out, passing through walls, through space, reaching across the galaxy. Energy output is incredible, Hyun-woo reported. It's using its entire being as fuel. On the screens, they watched as the lights found their destinations. Empty worlds began to shimmer. Space stations that had been erased flickered back into existence. But something was wrong. The Void Walker's form started to fade. You're using too much power, Jae-won warned. You'll burn out before finishing. Must complete the work, the being gasped. Young-soo stood up shakily. Let me help. I still have some connection to your neural patterns. I can share the load. Teacher, no. You've given enough. My daughter is in those patterns, Young-Soo said firmly. Let me help bring her back. Before anyone could stop him, Young-Soo placed his hands on the quantum field again. Energy flowed between him and the Void Walker. The restoration accelerated. Across the galaxy, the dead began to return. Not exactly as they were, but close. New bodies formed from quantum patterns. Memories reassembled from scattered pieces. Civilizations rebuilt themselves from the echo of what they had been. In the observation room, Administrator He-Jin Kang watched with tears in her eyes. It's working. They're coming back. The strike team leader lowered his weapon completely. Incredible. I've never seen anything like this. But the cost was becoming clear. The Void Walker was fading fast. Its beautiful form grew dimmer with each restored life. Young-Soo too was aging rapidly again. Stop, Jae-won pleaded. You've done enough. Save yourselves. No, the Void Walker said. Every life matters. Every single one. The being's form suddenly flared brilliant white. The light was so bright, everyone had to shield their eyes. When they could see again, the Void Walker was barely visible. Just a faint outline of light. Young-Soo had collapsed. Sun-Hee rushed to him, checking his vital signs. He's alive, but barely. The restoration was nearly complete. Across the galaxy, celebrations began as the erased returned. Families reunited. Worlds reborn. The greatest tragedy in history was becoming the greatest miracle. With the last of its strength, the Void Walker spoke. Dr. Kim, thank you. You showed me that healing is possible, even for monsters. You're not a monster, Jae-won said, tears flowing freely. You never were, you were just in pain. Tell the galaxy, that humans taught me the meaning of compassion. That's why I could do this. The being's form flickered one last time. Then, with a gentle sigh, the Void Walker faded away completely. The paradox that had defined its existence finally ended. In its place, only peace remained. Young-Soo opened his eyes. His hair was white, his face aged, but he smiled. Did we succeed? Look, Sun-Hee said, pointing to the screens. Across the galaxy, the restoration was complete. Trillions of beings had returned. Not perfect copies, but real, living people. The erased had been unerased. The strike team leader approached Jae-won. The council wants to thank you, all of you. You've done the impossible. We just did our job, Jae-won said quietly. We healed a patient. In the days that followed, the galaxy struggled to understand what had happened. The returned beings had memories of their past lives, but also knew they had been gone. They remembered the moment of erasure and the moment of return. Young-Soo's daughter was among them. She found her father in the medical facility, now an old man who had aged decades in hours. Father, what happened to you? Young-Soo hugged her tightly. I learned what it truly means to be a doctor, to heal even when it costs everything. The Galactic Council established a new medical protocol based on what had happened. They called it the Kim Protocol, after Jae-won. It stated that every being, no matter their crimes, deserved medical treatment and the chance for redemption. Monument was built on Earth, the first world to fully embrace the ideal of universal healthcare. It showed the Void Walker not as a destroyer, but as a being in pain who found peace through human compassion. The inscription read, Here, healing triumphed over hate. Here, a human doctor kept his oath and changed the galaxy forever. Jae-won stood before the monument on its dedication day. The crowd was enormous. Beings from every corner of the galaxy had come. The Void Walker taught us something, he said in his speech. That pain can make monsters of anyone. But compassion can unmake those monsters, can turn destruction into creation, death into life. He looked at Young-Soo, who sat in the front row with his daughter. At Sun-Hee and Hyun-Woo, who had become the heads of new medical research. At Jiwoo, who now trained security forces in compassionate restraint. We're all healers now, Jaewon continued. Every one of us. Because we've learned that healing isn't just about medicine. It's about seeing the patient behind the pain, the person behind the crime, the hope behind the despair. As the ceremony ended, a child approached Jaewon. One of the returned. She handed him a simple flower. "Thank you for saving us," she said. Jaewon knelt down to her level. "I didn't save you, we all did, together." The child smiled and ran back to her parents. Jaewon stood and looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, the echo of the Void Walker lived on. Not as a being, but as an idea. That redemption was possible. That healing could overcome any wound. That compassion was the greatest power in the universe. The Hippocratic Oath had saved the galaxy. And in doing so, it had become something more. A promise that every species now shared. To heal, to forgive, to hope. In the end, that was humanity's gift to the stars. Not their technology, not their strength, but their stubborn, beautiful belief that everyone deserved a second chance, even the being who had erased half the galaxy.